good morning, everyone. How are you this morning? I know we've got some people that are still out there in the other room. Is there a name for the other room? Is it just the other room? I don't know.
We could call it just the other room.
The other room.
We'll put a nameplate above the door.
This is like, I think of this as the sanctuary. I don't know if that's the proper term in a Baha'i center, but
I'd say this is the auditorium.
this is the auditorium. Okay.
That would be the dining room.
The dining room.
But
Okay.
it's not always a dining room.
Yeah, it's
The table.
the table. The table.
There's almost always tables.
I guess I should start ringing the gong.
Say that again.
I should start ringing the gong.
The gong. Although is that the Merriweathers coming in with Suzanne? Where did you find them, Suzanne? You left and you went and found them, didn't you? How's it going? You all were out of town for a while, weren't you?
Huh?
You all were out of town.
Yeah,
Right?
we're out of town.
Well, we're glad you're back. We're glad you're back. How
So
you
you
been?
don't have that extra guitar pick?
I might.
No.
No, I've got a bunch of picks. I'm just not sure I have one on me. Oh, are you picking
a
it?
guitar at home, so
Well, stop the madness. I might even have one in my wallet. I'm not sure. I've got a bunch of them because as you can see,
I texted you earlier.
You did?
About 9:30.
Oh, okay. Well,
Bring an extra pick.
oh,
But
well,
I knew you always would have one.
but I don't normally use them is the problem. That's why I'm not sure if I have one right now.
Your thumb must be real.
But I got if I don't have one here, I got a bunch of them at home, and I don't mind giving. Wait a minute. Here we go. Wait a minute. I could swear I could feel something in there. Hang on. No, that's just the wallet, the feel of the wallet.
Yeah.
I guess I don't have one. That's the credit card. I thought I had one that I kept in here, and I probably took it out and never put it back in there.
Okay.
But man, don't buy picks. I got a bunch of them, and
Yeah, that's what I figured. I said,
Yeah.
I know most people say, oh, but got about 10 to 20 of them laying.
yeah. And like I said, I keep trying to learn how to use one because they're not as easy for everyone to use. Some people just choose to use their fingers, but it does give you a crisper sound. So anyway, yeah, I got a bunch of them, and I'll
Okay.
get one for you. Well, again, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We're going to go ahead and see if we can begin. As you can see, we have assisting, and that's the right word, giving us some pleasant mood music. We have Kim helping us out this morning. Blessed is the spot and the house and the place and the city and the heart and the mountain and the refuge and the cave and the valley and the land and the sea and the island and the meadow where mention of God hath been made, and his praise glorified. Ooh. Well, again, one more good morning to everyone. As you can see, our topic for today, which is still coming from Baha'u'llah's teachings on spiritual reality, is believing in God. And so we're going to go ahead and begin, whoever would choose to read. I'm assuming that everyone in here knows how we do this now, but For anyone who doesn't, we just read at random. And then we try to have a little brief discussion at the end now. If anyone feels the need to point out specific, want to highlight certain things or express your own views in regards to something that catches your attention in the readings, we'll be doing that after we're finished going through the readings. So whoever would choose to begin, believing in God.
This people, all of them, have pictured a God in the realm of the mind and worship that image which they have made for themselves. And yet that image is comprehended. The human mind being the comprehender thereof, and certainty, the comprehender, is greater than that which lieth within its grasp. For imagination is but the branch, while the mind is the root, and certainly the root is greater than the branch. Consider then how all the peoples of the world are bowing the knee to a fancy of their own contriving, how they have created a creator within their own minds, and they call it the fashioner of all that is, whereas in truth it is but an illusion. Thus are the people worshiping only an error of perception.
To every discerning and illuminating heart, it is evident that God, the unknowable essence, the divine being, is immensely exalted beyond every human attribute, such as corporeal existence, ascent and descent, egress and regress. Far be it from his glory that human tongue should adequately recount his praise, or that human heart comprehend this fathomless mystery. He is, and hath ever been, veiled in the ancient eternity of his essence, ever remain in his reality, everlastingly hidden from the sight of men.
All the prophets and apostles longed and prayed for nearness to the Creator. How many nights they passed in sleepless yearning for this statement. How many days they devoted to supplication to this opinion, seeking ever to draw nigh unto him. But nearness to God is not an easy accomplishment. Nearness to God is dependent upon purity of the heart and exhilaration of the spirit through the glad tidings of the kingdom. Consider how a pure, well-polished mirror fully reflects the effulgence of the sun, no matter how distant the sun may be. As soon as the mirror is seen and purified, the sun will manifest itself. The more pure and sanctified the heart of man becomes, the nearer it draws to God, and the light of the sun of reality is revealed within it. This light sets hearts aglow with the fire of the love of God, opens them the door of knowledge, and unseals the divine mysteries so that spiritual discoveries are made possible. All the prophets have drawn near to God through severance. We must emulate these holy souls and renounce our own wishes and desires. We must purify ourselves from the mire and soil of earthly contact until our hearts become as mirrors in clearness and the light of the most great guidance reveals itself in them.
He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved. He who is the best beloved. He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved. He who is the best beloved. He who is the best beloved is come. Let us praise him, let us praise him, let us praise him, Baha'u'llah. Let us praise him, let us praise him, let us praise him, the glory of God. He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved, he who is the best beloved, he who is the best beloved is come. Let us praise him, let us praise him, let us praise him, Baha'u'llah. Let us praise him, let us praise him, let us praise him, the glory of God. He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved is come.
Baha'u'llah proclaims in the hidden words that God inspires his servants and is revealed through them. He says, "Thy heart is my home. Sanctify it for my descent. Thy spirit is my place of revelation. Cleanse it for my manifestation." Therefore we learn that nearness to God is possible through devotion to him. Through entrance into the kingdom and service to humanity, it is attained by unity with mankind and through loving kindness to all. It is dependent upon investigation of truth, acquisition of praiseworthiness, virtues, service in the cause of universal peace, and personal sanctification. In a word, nearness to God necessitates sacrifices of self, severance, and the giving up of all to him. Nearness is likeness.
The spirit that animateth the human heart is the knowledge of God. O Son of Being, thou art my lamp, and my light is in thee. Get thou from it thy radiance, and seek none other than me. For I have created thee rich, and have bountifully shed my favor upon thee. O Son of Man, the light hath shone on thee from the horizon of the sacred mount, and the spirit of enlightenment hath breathed into thine eye thy heart. Wherefore free thyself from the veils of idle fancies, and enter into my court, that thou mayest be fit for everlasting life, and worthy to meet me. Thus may death not come upon thee, neither weariness nor sorrow.
I have Christ. seeking your own good, appear to love one another, whereas the true friend had loved and doth love you for your sakes. Indeed, he hath suffered for your guidance countless afflictions, but be not disloyal to such a friend. Nay, rather hasten unto him, such as a day star of the world of truth and faithfulness, that hath dawned above the horizon of the pen of the Lord of all names. Open your ears, that ye have hearkened unto the word of God. Help in peril of
Unto thee have I raised my hands, O Lord, and in thee have I found sheltering support, O Lord. And unto thee have I resigned myself, O Lord, and upon thee have I placed my whole reliance, O Lord. Unto thee have I raised my hands, O Lord, and in thee have I found sheltering support, O Lord. And unto thee have I resigned myself, O Lord, and upon thee have I placed my whole reliance, O Lord. And by thee am I strengthened, by thee am I strengthened, by thee am I strengthened, O Lord. And by thee am I strengthened, by thee am I strengthened, by thee am I strengthened, O Lord. Unto thee have I raised my hands, O Lord, and in thee have I found sheltering support, O Lord. And unto thee have I resigned myself, O Lord, and upon thee have I placed my whole reliance, O Lord. And by thee am I strengthened, by thee am I strengthened, by thee am I strengthened, O Lord. And by thee am I strengthened, by thee am I strengthened, by thee am I strengthened, O Lord. By thee am I strengthened, O Lord. By thee am I strengthened, O Lord. Well, believing in God. I'll admit that when I read that, I always believe that someone who would read this may say, believing in God, what's the point? You know, you look around and you see how things are going, and well, how's your God? You know, it's sort of like, I think of that old Dino, what was Dino De Laurentiis? I don't know, was it the movie about Moses? And, you know, and Pharaoh would say, where's your God now? That kind of thing. You know, there are so many questions that could be asked. Why? How do you, what, again, to me, the questions are always that I get answered are what, you know, why believe in God? How do you demonstrate that? And what are the benefits of believing in God? Why are we supposed to? Kristen, your hand is up. Wow. Yeah, well, you know, I mean, actually, Baha'u'llah talks about that phenomenon of getting the Spirit. But I think one thing we have to understand is that our reaction to God is in the way it's demonstrated. You know, it's different for different people. And it doesn't mean, you know, you can go to, let's say for those people that do still go to traditional churches, you can go to one church and it's very lively and very, you know, charismatic and a whole lot of open shows of emotion, and others it's very quiet and very reserved. And they all have value. What we do here is as legitimate and valid as anywhere else. And I think, you know, what's most important is, are we indeed responding to God, and are we indeed sincere with our response? Yes, Suzanne.
So I love these quotes. And the first one talks about the fact that we've all, when you think you comprehend God, you think you know, you don't know.
My head almost exploded when I
Everything you know, you don't know.
Yeah.
But you can know God, and we were created to know God. And then these rest of these quotes are, how do we know God? We know Him when we purify our hearts, and His light, like the sun, shines and reflects out from our hearts. And the light in our hearts is His light, you know. And turn thy sight unto thyself, that thou mayest find me standing within thee, mighty, powerful, and self-subsisting. Actually, God is within us.
Yes.
You know, he who has known his own self has known God.
Yeah.
You know, the tradition. You know, and it's just all about getting rid of the attachment to the material and attaching yourself to the spiritual. Like the tree grows to the light, and it can't help it. We need to learn to grow to the light as well.
Yes.
And that brings meaning, energy, life,
Yes, Jim.
One thing that I've always said is that unless you're transformed by the message, whatever the message is, you only reveal or conceal more or less of who you really are. So unless you're transformed by the message, you only conceal or reveal more or less of who you are. And so I think about that often, about how people do that in their day-to-day lives, and how do you become transformed is that, that purity thing. So to me, it's always about prayer and meditation is how you do that to help. And I always go back to the example that's used in the Baha'u'llah in the New Era, where it talks about metal shavings. Let's say you have metal shavings on a table that the force of gravity is reacting onto that. But you pass a magnet above it, and then they become attracted to that magnet. And so it's, in the end, a superior force, just as calculable as the force of gravity, has reacted upon the metal shavings. Gravity is still affecting it, but they have risen above it because of the greater force. And so to me, that's how the prayer is that when you pray and meditate, you rise yourself up above the dross of this world, and that's how you begin to acquire these attributes of God.
Once you rise yourself up from the dross, then you need to act.
Yeah.
And I think that's the rising up. It's
Yeah.
it's the meditation, the reflecting on the Word of God. It does activate something, and then it needs to go out.
Right. If the word of the faith is unity,
Yeah,
its action is service.
exactly.
So and we're told that
And it's a cycle, because then that purifies the heart too.
Yeah.
So.
I love that quote. Yes, Kim.
I was just going to say that, the first writing about, we all, even when we try not to, I think it's kind of human nature to make a picture of something. So we're all walking around with this picture of God in our minds, and that is really, you think about it, that's kind of a root cause of all the problems.
Yeah.
Because people get so attached to their own imagining of what they think God is, which is just a picture of their imagination, and that stands in the way of the actual message of all of the holy prophets.
people fall in love with the lamp and not the light.
Yes.
Exactly, yes.
Yes.
And that's why
And they fall in love with their it has to do with our ego too, because it's our idea. We'll fight to the death to keep our idea of what we think it should be.
Yeah.
That's
So
where
then-
you get so many atheists from too, because they don't believe in that, but we don't either.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of people, when people are searching for an answer, they're looking for something that fits their beliefs. So when they're searching for a faith or a church or whatever, they're actually looking for something that fits their beliefs. And the reality is we have to understand what God is wanting us to find. And so once we do that, that's why the book, The Seven Valleys and Four Valleys, is so powerful. And so I think it's the first book that someone that's searching should read, because it tells you how to clear your heart, your mind, and try to find the truth.
You all have said something that I've often thought about in different ways, and that's at least something that I personally observed, and this is just my own perception, but I see how many times people have been attracted, let's say, to the Baha'i writings. Maybe it could have been any faith, but sometimes I think of the importance of that first hidden word. My first counsel is this: possess a pure, kindly, and radiant heart. That part of pure, I look at that as almost the equivalent of Jesus saying you must be born again, where whatever you thought you knew, all that stuff that's built up that you've attached to some idea of spirituality, you got to push that aside. And you have to start from zero. You have to clear yourself of all of those preconceived notions, what Baha'u'llah calls vain imaginings, so that you can really hear the word for today and really, to the best of our ability and given our limitations, process it without it being weighed down with those preconceived notions. And some of those preconceived notions, and this is just me once again, but names. Baha'u'llah talks about we have to be careful of being, caught up in the kingdom of names. And again, my interpretation of that is, again, no authority, but so often, you look at the precepts and concepts that are, or those elements of different faiths, and we all know that as far as the eternal teachings, spiritual teachings, they're pretty much the same. Baha'u'llah says that. But a lot of times we can miss that if we attach it only to a name. What you said about being attracted to the lamp instead of the light. The names, even history. Let's face it, the history of the Baha'i faith is different from the history of other faiths because it's a different time, it's a different place. And so it's easy to get caught up or attached to those things and allow it to be a veil or a barrier from us recognizing the Word of God for today and being able to apply it and to ourselves. Another head exploding moment for me was under that first musical selection where Abdul Baha says, we learn that nearness to God is possible through devotion to Him, through entrance into the kingdom and service to humanity. It is attained by unity with mankind and through loving kindness to all. It is dependent upon investigation of truth, acquisition of praiseworthy virtues, service in the cause of universal peace and personal satisfaction. In a word, nearness to God necessitates sacrifice of self, severance, and the giving up of all to Him. And then he says in 3 words, nearness is likeness. And I'm like, whoa. My toes are hurting because they're stepping on them. Yes.
And he also says that nearness to God is not an easy accomplishment.
Yes.
No, it's not.
It is not. Wow. Anyone else have anything you'd like to say or any observations you've made? Well, I'd like to thank everyone who shared and those of you who participated by listening, because that's participation too. And now, what's that again? That's what we're getting ready to do now. So this is that time. Anyone who would like to offer up a personal prayer or reading of your choosing, please feel free to do so.
O my God, thou seest me in my lowliness and weakness, occupied with the greatest undertaking, determined to raise thy word among the masses and to spread thy teachings among thy people. How can I succeed unless thou assist me with the breath of the Holy Spirit? Help me to triumph by the hosts of thy glorious kingdom, and shower upon me thy confirmations, which alone can change a gnat into an eagle, a drop of water into rivers and seas, and an atom into lights and suns. O my Lord, assist me with thy triumphant and effective might, so that my tongue may utter thy praises and attributes among all people, and my soul overflow with the wine of thy love and knowledge. Thou art the omnipotent and the doer of whatsoever thou willest.
Oh mi Señor, mi esperanza, ayuda a tus amados a ser firmes en tu poderosa alianza, a permanecer fieles a tu causa manifiesta y poner la práctica los mandamientos que tú has consignado para ellos en tu libro de esplendores, para que lleguen a ser enseñanza, guía y lámpara del concurso de lo alto, manantiales de tu infinita sabiduría, estrellas que guían rectamente tu rodando desde el firmamento celestial. Verdaderamente tú eres el invencible, el todopoderoso, el omnipotente.
It's a healing prayer for KT, Fatima Cabot's mom, and all those who are ill. O God, my God, I beg of thee by the ocean of thy healing, and by the splendors of the day star of thy grace, and by thy name through which thou didst subdue thy servants, and by the pervasive power of thy most exalted word, and the potency of thy most august pen, and by thy mercy that hath preceded the creation of all who are in heaven and on earth, to purge me with the waters of thy bounty from every affliction and disorder, and from all weakness and feebleness. Thou seest door of thy bounty, and him who hath set his hopes on thee, clinging to the cord of thy generosity. Deny him not, I beseech thee, the things he seeketh from the ocean of thy grace, and the day star of thy loving kindness. Powerful art thou to do what pleaseth thee. There is none other God but thee, the ever forgiving, the most generous.
O Lord my God, in my heaven, in my distress, my shield and my shelter in my woes, my asylum and refuge in the time of need, and in my loneliness of companion, in my anguish, my solace, in my soul
Make my prayer, oh my Lord, a fountain of living waters, whereby I may live as long as thy sovereignty endureth, and may make mention of thee in every world of thy worlds, and may make mention of thee in every world of thy worlds, in every world of thy worlds, in every world of thy worlds. Well, this ends our devotion for this morning. I'd like to say thanks to everyone for coming. Well, first of all, I'd like to, I have a terrible memory for names. I say it often. I'd like to recognize the Cocos. They're parts of the community, but they're not able to come very often on Sunday to our Sunday devotion. So it's really great seeing you and feeling that youthful energy here. So thank you for coming. And I don't want to put anyone on the spot, so I don't think I'll do that. But is there anyone who'd like to share an announcement or anything? Any announcements at all?
Feast is Monday the 18th.
Feast is Monday the 18th.